I do have Umama Ubam to talk to us. You did say that you have a good relationship, Mama, with the SABC in your time at the Electoral Commission. If we can start there.
At the Electoral Commission?
Yes.
Or with the SABC?
Yes,
yes indeed. I had a privilege. I need to start with that. I was part of the first group that was appointed by Madiba in 1992 to be on the board of the SABC. And so I belong to that group of persons who had a difficult job of managing this very important institution and transform it. And we can write many stories, great stories of that transformation, because we had to go to elections by 1994. Little did we know at the time that as we're doing the preparation, that Madiba would in fact have the highest number of heads of states who would be coming to an inauguration. And so the preparation was beyond anything that we could cope with as SABC of the time because of all the technical things. But I must say that in spite of that, we felt we did well. With, of course, the international press, even at that time, being over us, but we didn't have any experience. And so we have some great moments of joy. I was part of the team at the airport, and when Nyerere came, and I was standing there with the team of the SABC, all our technicians, the cameramen and all, and Nyerere's arrival was great because Nyerere had been one of our greatest supporters. And Julius Nyerere of Tanzania said, I will not come to South Africa. I will only come when South Africa is free. So the day he was arriving, the SABC and everybody else were at the airport. All eyes, all preparation. But before, on a lighter note, we knew what was happening. We found Nyerere somewhere in the hands of a group of people who were holding Nyerere on their shoulders, men of course, and so the cameramen and everybody else had to run behind.
Yes, Mama Bam, we're thankful for those stories. And also we want to talk about the subject that we are about now, the passing of Utado Archbishop Desmond Tutu. You spoke to us about your relationship that you had, especially on the time you were overseas, and how you fought for economic sanctions in South Africa to try and fight for equality. Talk to us about it. How difficult was it, especially considering the fact that the regime was at the helm at the time, was the apartheid regime. How was it for you to go overseas and fight for those economic sanctions and coming back to live in South Africa with the Archbishop?
Even before I answer, I need to just make a thing. Desmond, in the middle of us working overseas for the World Council of Churches, with all the safety that we had, it's important to add to that, and with all the opportunities of traveling all over the world, which was important. And the kind of work we were doing was really to inform people about the evils of apartheid. And one of the decisions that had been made by the United Nations and by other nations at that time was economic sanctions, because they said South Africa trades with the rest of the world. And so they can't sustain apartheid. So what in fact happened, and it was at that time. But Desmond decides in the midst of all this, when he had difficulties to leave the country, to return first to Lesotho and then return back to South Africa. And he said, I realize that there is no way one can fight apartheid away from home. And I have decided to return home and leave all the safety of where we were in Europe, no special branch, no fears of being arrested or poisoned for that matter. Those were the moments which were very difficult, and he made it on principle that he will leave all that comfort and come home to fight with the people at home for the system to change. I think this is important because most people don't know those hard decisions that had to be made. And by then, he was already a bishop of a church. Now, to be a bishop in our church is one of the highest positions that you can hold. But to say, I will leave all that, I will leave Lesotho, and I'll return home so I can be with them.
And also, you came in to pay your condolences to Mama Leah. How is she holding on? What conversations did you have with her to try and give her strength and courage?
You know, Leah has always been a very strong person. Leah has been such supporter with courage. She supported everything in spite of the fear that she would have that Desmond will be arrested any day. Any day the police will come. You know that kind of harassment, 1:00 a.m. in the morning. She is very sad, naturally. The loss is to Grace. They've been married for over 60 years and married to a life full of challenges, full of joys as well. And so, naturally, she is holding out because she has to receive people. She has to be gracious enough to accept, the condolences that are coming. But naturally, it's a great loss of a life partner and a friend.
Mama Bam, thank you so much for your time on those anecdotes and the stories that you told us life about Utata Archbishop. I do see also his grandson was also around here.
Okay.
I heard that you are a golfer. Maybe Mama Bam, you can stand and we will speak again. If you may come forward. I know you've just been to the cathedral to see the body of Tatom. I know you are a golfer as well. You've heard people talking about your grandfather. Just talk to us. How are you feeling, and also about the opportunities that he has afforded you?
Yeah, sorry. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be much of a good conversation at the moment. It was tough to see. Just struggling with that one.
And also, how is it living overseas? And also, I heard you are a golfer as well.
I lived overseas actually got stuck there because of lockdown. But I wasn't officially living there necessarily. But spent a year and a bit in Denmark. What was the other question?
And also, how do you feel about the opportunities that your grandfather has afforded you in life?
The thing is, obviously, having the same surname has helped in certain instances, but what people don't understand is that sometimes it can block you because people almost automatically think that by virtue of having the surname, we're not gonna we think you've had better opportunity than anyone else, and my granddad has always been everything on merit, so there'd be no free rides in that regard.
And also, we understand Tato Desmond had 4 children, one son who is your father. You are maybe the only grandson who's still holding the surname. How are you planning to, must be too much of a pressure, how are you planning to hold that prestige?
Hey man, to be honest, it's a little bit too early to talk about that, but I know it is going to come with quite a bit of responsibility. But I haven't been told what my role is going to be just yet.
Thank you so much. There was grandson of Tata Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Well, Nzinga, we're trying to get you multiplicity of voices of people who had a relation with the Archbishop. We spoke to Mama Brigalia Bam, who is the former chairperson of the Electoral Commission, speaking to us about how they were fighting for the economic sanctions, saying when they were overseas, they had much better protection and security until the Arch decided to come and fight from the ground and fight from home. And also speaking to one of his grandson, who is a golfer who was stuck overseas due to the lockdown, saying, of course, the surname of Tutu comes with different dynamics to it. Sometimes it gives opportunities to you, sometimes it blocks you. So we try to give you stories and those different voices and those humanness stories, and also the authenticity of how people are feeling really about the passing of the Arch. Zinga.
Atule Joka in Milnerton in the Western Cape for us, and apologies to our viewers for that crackling sound that was coming through a little bit.